Joining me now is Australian Grape and Wine CEO Lee McLean. Lee, welcome to the show. Were you disappointed to see the Albanese government not take this offer up?
Well, thanks for having me on the program. Look, we don't really know what was in that proposed package deal that was reported in the media over the last couple of days. So it would be inappropriate for me to comment on whether that was a good thing or a bad thing or anything else otherwise. But what we do know is that we've seen a really strong uptick in the engagement at the political level over the last few months, and that's a positive thing because from our perspective, we've been pretty consistently of the view that that dialogue is necessary and it's a precondition for us to resolving those issues.
Yeah, well, I had lunch on Saturday with Richard Dolan from Beck Hardy Wines, who was on the trade delegation that Peter Malinauskas and South Australia sent over to China recently. And, he came back very positive. The suppliers over there are certainly very keen to get Australian wine back into the market. And we know that Anthony Albanese is talking about going overseas to China later in the year as well to discuss these things. What kind of deal do you think would be fair for Australia and China to broker in order to get the best bang for your buck for the Australian wine market to get your products back into China?
Well, we've been consistently of the view that those import duties need to be removed in totality. We are in the midst of a World Trade Organisation dispute at the moment that the government has launched, and that is ongoing. We think that's only fair to bring our case to the independent umpire in Geneva for the experts to look at the facts and come up with a recommendation. Now, we understand that's well underway. The parties are talking, but most importantly for us, whether it's an official panel finding from the World Trade Organisation or just the fact that the parties are coming together in Geneva to talk about these issues, we think that provides an opportunity for dialogue and resolution ultimately, and removal of those tariffs. That's what we want to see.
So if we get back online with China, what would that mean to the Australian wine market? Because obviously with the loss of China, you had to diversify and look elsewhere. So would bringing China back online actually see the Australian wine market in a better position than it was before China imposed these tariffs? Because in the meantime, we've actually, through necessity, had to go out and create other markets.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. To give the viewers some context, prior to these import duties being imposed on Australian wine, the export market was valued at about $1.2 billion for Australian winemakers. That was primarily red wine that was being sent to China. Now, no one is expecting that that market would return in that sort of magnitude. There is significant changes that have occurred in the Chinese market over the last couple of years. We, of course, by virtue of our absence, have lost some of that market share to countries like France and Chile, which have done very well over the last couple of years. But nonetheless, the China market will be an incredibly important market for us, whether it comes back, even if it comes back at a portion of that $1.2 billion figure, it may well still be our largest export market. So that's incredibly important for us because we know that that effort to diversify, unlike some other commodities in Australia that have been impacted by some of these trade impediments, we found it quite difficult to diversify those export markets. We've seen some strong growth in places like Southeast Asia, albeit off a low base. Japan and Korea have done quite well in recent years, but we really haven't seen growth either by a single market or a collection of markets that can replace what we lost in the China market. So we really do hope that hope we can see a resolution to these import duties in the near term.
Indeed. Well, I certainly enjoy the Australian product and I can understand why our Chinese compatriots would as well. Lee McLean, thank you so much for joining me.